Marc was born in Tokyo, Japan in 1952, and in 1975 earned his Bachelors of Fine Art with distinction from the California College of Arts and Crafts in Oakland. Interestingly, while he and Arthur Okamura upstairs were at the school at the same time, he did not take a class with him, which I find
I was a student.
Yeah, you were the student, he was the teacher, and he weren't there.
Yeah.
So, in 1981, Marc earned the SECA Award from the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and his paintings have been exhibited across the United States, Italy, and Japan, and can be found in the collections of SF MoMA, the Fine Arts Museum, the Crocker, Honolulu, San Jose Museum, and the Zimmerli Art Museum at Rutgers. Now, do you have a few words you want to start with, or should I just start with questions?
You could start with questions. But
Okay.
thank you all for coming. It's great to see all this work up at the same time. I usually don't get to see, work from different periods of my career, I guess you'd call it, all up at once. So this is pretty wonderful to see. So thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for the gallery for putting up this show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for Marc, the act of inscription has been a foundational premise behind your work from the very beginning. How did you decide that that was the path that your work was going to take?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Japan. I'm an Army brat, a U.S. Army brat. And so I went to American schools, and I could not read anything that was in the Japanese community because I didn't know how to read hiragana or katakana and kanji. English is my first language, so all those images are little, maybe pictograms, or they're pictograms, but they had no meaning behind them. And so when I started this artwork, I was just making marks, trying to make my own pictograms. They do not have any meaning behind them, as I saw during my childhood. But that was the impetus, and I know that's all that came from living there at that time. So.
And you've never learned them?
I'm learning. I know how to read hiragana and katakana, but not all the kanji, which are the very difficult words. Yeah.
Okay. So in the show that we have works on wood over here, we have canvas, and we have work on paper. How do your choices of materials impact the type of marks that you make on them?
Yeah, well, they're all different challenges. So the original paintings on wood, I was using a wood cutting tool, and I've always done wood cuts between paintings they're not necessarily a palette cleanser, but after I finished the series, I would always start doing wood cuts to think of what to do next. So I would do this because wood cuts are so labor intensive, and also because I printed them all myself, there's all this time to think about what you might work on next. That painting around the corner is painting on wood using wood cutting tools. So that's how I started that. But then you just kind of organically move on to the next phase of painting when I have a new idea. Then I'll do a whole series of that work. And when I finish that series, when I don't find it challenging anymore, I'll stop and do another series, or do another wood cut and start working that way.
Okay.
Yeah. But and I stopped painting on canvas in 2008 or something like that. And the reason for that is I had so many ideas. I didn't want to just, every time you paint a canvas, you have to make stretcher bars and gesso a canvas and prepare this whole thing. But I had all these ideas I wanted to put out at once, so I would start working on paper, and you can get them all quickly onto your ideas out very quickly. And I decided, well, I'll just do this. So I started experimenting with different papers. And there was a woman in LA, Hiromi, who imports paper from all over the world, and Japan, Nepal in particular. So I started using Japanese papers. And one day, I found this, she has this wonderful paper that's 7 by 7 feet. And it's beautiful.
That's huge.
It's huge, and it's very expensive. So I went to Hiromi and I said, you know, I have so many failures with this paper that I can't use it anymore, because I would walk into the studio and I start marking it and it would be bad. So I would tear it up and throw that away. And I said, do you have any other paper that I can use that wouldn't cost me that much money? So she said, there's this Nepalese paper and it comes in a roll.
Yeah.
Behind you there, that's Nepalese paper. And the reason I started using that because it presented a bunch of challenges, because Nepal didn't have very good quality control. So each piece of paper would be thicker or thinner, they absorb more ink or less ink, or paint. And so each time you go to the paper, you have another challenge, and it made it more interesting to work. And so the other story is that I said to Hiromi, I can't use this giant paper anymore. I have too many failures. And she said to me, oh, Richard Serra has a lot of failures. and I said, well, you know, I'm not Richard Serra.
You don't have Richard Serra's bank account?
No, I don't have his bank. So she found me this paper, and it's been working out really well. But
it's beautiful paper, I have to say.
Yeah.
So for you, though, in many of these works, the active erasure is an important part of your mark making, as much as what you put on is as much about what you take out of it.
Yeah.
Which is most easily seen in the wood piece and this kind of drishti piece, which kind of bookmark the beginnings and ends of what this show covers. So it's like, it's like, how important is the balance of both presence and absence in your work?
It's all about leaving a mark.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the story of drishti. Drishti, I was doom scrolling. And I said, well, you know, I need some focus here, because we can't just doom scroll all the time. So I thought, okay, focus. Drishti in yoga is the focal point in the distance that you can meditate on or do your tree pose or whatever. So I thought, well, I'll do these paintings they're abstract paintings that have an actual purpose, it turns out. But I started doing these paintings because there's a mark that's most visible, and you keep your eye on that and do your tree pose or meditate on it. And so that's how those came about. So there are a bunch of, I think there are 34 paintings like that. Some are larger, but that was the impetus for those. And it was all about making marks.
Yeah.
And,
but with those ones, unlike with the wood, where you're using a wood cutting tool, you're using a razor blade to slice away the paper to make that mark. So
originally, the paper starts out, the Nepalese paper starts out with some acrylic paint on it.
Yeah.
I'll splash some acrylic paint on it. Behind there you can see that yellow ochre. So that's a kind of a random mark. Then I would cover the whole piece with black paint stick, which is like scratch board. So I was creating my own scratch board. And then I would take a blade and make the marks.
Yeah.
And the marks are these ellipse forms, and I've used them there, and this one here,
and this
one. They're all the same mark. I mean, the original mark was this C and D motion. I was not creating ellipses. I was using this motion with my arm and hand to make this form. So I've used them for years now, that same form. And I also repeat those forms. It becomes a sort of alphabet that I've used for years, and I repeat them over and over again. Like those two paintings behind you, those marks are the same forms. One's a line, and the other one is a form that was painted in, but it's the same form. Mm-hmm. So that became my kind of two letters in my alphabet that I use over and over again. And
What about this one?
That one, those forms exist also in a different series that keep working.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happened was that I started doing these paintings on canvas, and I stopped doing those paintings because I wanted to get a lot of work out, and I started doing these. They were made with my hand and a stick.
Mm-hmm.
In it's the most basic thing, hand stick in ink, right? So, you're back to the basics, I guess. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So the structure of your compositions has varied from very dense, like this one over here, to very kind of open and atmospheric, like this one right next to it. So it's like, how has that evolution taken place for you? Like, is it conscious or is it unconscious or a bit of both?
It's all about, all the paintings are about balance. So they have to be balanced within the framework. So I don't know what to say about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
So on another thought, like when you're making a work, what's your studio environment like? Are you listening to music or is it quiet or like, what's that like for you?
No, I'm only listening to music if it's a repetitive movement. So like doing something like a woodcut, because it's this repetitive motion and you don't have to really concentrate on each stroke. If I'm doing something like a line, one line on a piece, there's no music involved in that, or no sound. I'm not thinking of anything else but that time. So everybody wants to get in that zone where you don't feel time anymore, and I'm really envious of some landscape painters or representational painters because they can be in that zone and keep painting and have this full day of being in no time. When I'm doing those things, I get 30 seconds maybe of being in that position. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So there, for me, in each of these works, there's a kind of an emotional resonance that comes through them. Some are very calm, some have more energy. They have, they're very different, but I love each one individually. Is that something like you're kind of aiming for, or is there?
I'm aiming for a balance of forms within the framework.
Okay.
It's not necessarily anything emotional or anything like that. So when there's a balance, there's a calmness. I guess that's what you're seeing. Yeah.
My last question to you is, do you, now that we're kind of seeing this kind of survey and everything like that, after working for almost 50 years now, do you find yourself kind of still finding new avenues to investigate that you want to do, or are you kind of going back to reinvestigate things that you've done before?
Well, no, I'm sorry. As you work, things develop. So you just keep working. You have to just keep working. It is a practice. That's why we call it a practice, right? Art is my practice. So we just keep working, and eventually something will develop. It's not going to be. It has to develop organically. I'm not going to go out and say I'm not going to do cubist paintings now or anything like that, right? So eventually I'll develop a new form of painting, and we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, please ask me, because I'm not. I've never been a teacher or anything like that. So
yeah. We have one here.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned that you rarely see your work, through the age all together in one room at one time. Is there one that is speaking to you the most, or do you have to use the word favorite? I don't mean to use the word favorite, but like when you look at all these together, so which one is?
No, there's no favorite.
No attached. Or is there one you're more attached?
No, it's you're attached to the paintings when you start them, and then when you finish them, it's like I learned all I needed to do from this painting, so I can do something else now. There's a little steps. It's not. So I don't have a favorite. I'm happiest when I'm starting something to learn something and have some challenge, and that's.
Anyone else?
Could you tell a little more about, you said you did woodworking.
Yeah.
The one that you carved?
It's plywood with, so I'll start with a piece of plywood, then I use paint stick, which is an oil crayon, oil-based form of crayon. And I'll paint the surface with that. And then I'll use a wood cutting tool and cut these forms in it. So there are those ellipse forms in that painting also, right? Besides the swirls and everything like that. But it's this cutting motion, it's just a motion. So I'm making thousands of marks, basically, on a piece of wood.
And what kind of paint is that one?
This is acrylic paint. So how these are made, I'll paint a bunch of ellipses, for choice of a better word, on this thing, on the surface. And these were done in LA, and I know that in 5 or 10 minutes, all the edges will dry first. So when the edges dry, I would take the whole painting outside into the yard, and I had this toxic waste dump, I called it. I would hose it off. I'd use an actual hose and paint and hose the painting off. Most of the paint would fall off into this waste. It's like 99.9% is off the canvas, and you end up with this edge. So these little circles, these are dots of paint. And if you have a little water bubble, the edges dry first and the middle stays wet. That's exactly what this is. And so I know it's the same principle here. I know after a while all the edges will dry. And I would repeat that over and over and over again.
That whole wash down several times.
Yeah, many times. Yeah. So.
Because it doesn't look like a brush thing.
No, it's not. Yeah.
That's a lot of paint to go through.
It's more paint than.
Do you wait until it dries before you paint again?
Wait until that edge is dry. That edge remains, and then it's probably dry by then.
Yeah.
So I paint on top. Yeah. Before the next layer, the whole surface is dry.
Yeah.
So.
Who are your main inspirations? Like as you're a child, maybe Claude Monet with water lilies. What about you?
I have favorite painters. My favorite painter is either Charles Birchfield, he's an American painter, and he does these large watercolors, and also Mondrian, and I don't have real inspirations from painters. I like Charles Birchfield because he does these large watercolors very, very well, and he'll add these little funny little abstractions as sound or as like heat waves, but he'll make up his own little marks. And I thought, well, this is pretty amazing. He's this guy. He's making these landscape paintings, and I think I'll put chirping, crickets or something in here, so they'll make the sound. It's kind of interesting that he just can't. It's another, yeah. And of course, so it's never just some artist that I'm inspired by. It's many, for their work ethic or whatever, their skill.
I'm also thinking about like naturally in the natural world, like was there something that inspired you, like a death of a loved one, or being out in the garden, or washing the dishes, showering?
Well, that's why I mentioned that the kanji and everything I saw, I couldn't read. I couldn't read, right? So there were these, signage for everything in Japan, and I couldn't read those, so they were just little pictures for me. And I was just, I inherited all that, I guess. And then it just manifested itself in these paintings. So there's nothing behind the marks. They might look like words or something like that, but there's nothing there. It's just an actual mark. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.